What's going on, everybody? My name is Monatui, coach of the Tampa Bay Luxrays, and today I'm bringing you guys week 2 of TBU versus Skyrander. His channel will be in the description below. Definitely check him out. He, like I said, my team builder, is the runner-up of TBU Season 2. I think last season was Season 2. I believe it was. Yeah, probably. Anyway, he was the runner-up from last season. He also has a very threatening team. As you can see, the 6 he brought are his Scizor, Thundurus T, Drapion, Mega Sceptile, Heracross, and Frostlass. Now I have an entire team builder dedicated to my team. However, on our side you see we have our Weakness Policy Trick Room Diancie, we have our Physically Defensive Stealth Rocking Gligar, we have our Offensive Life Orb Scolipede, we have our Scarf Magneton, we have our Speedy Specially Defensive Cresselia, and we have our Physically Defensive Mega Blastoise. So, looking at his team, he brought about what I expected, which is definitely nice. I expected the Heracross to come. He did take it off his bench this week. Not entirely sure what type of Scizor that's going to be. Could be Banded, could be Shed Shell to avoid being trapped, we will see later on. Thundurus T could possibly be Scarf, would definitely be nice for my team. Though I could definitely also see like a setup Thundurus so that I can set up on my Cresselia and beat it 1v1. And then I'm kind of thinking maybe also a Scarf Heracross, so maybe one of the Scarfers, maybe both Scarfers, I'm not entirely sure. But regardless, let's just get into the match. And let's move my mouse out of screen. There we go. I am going to, well, Sky is going to, no, I am going to lead off with Stan, the Diancie. It just had a decent matchup versus his team. I didn't think he'd want to lead with Scizor in case I led with Magneton. And here I can just fire off a Moonblast, get some good damage on whatever wants to come in. He's going to fire off a Shadow Ball, which I can take relatively well because Diancie does have very good natural bulk. So I am going to go for that Moonblast, and that's going to easily do over half to this Frostlass. So potential Focus Sash is broken. This thing's very low, I can pick it off later on, but now he's actually going to pull a Hard Switch out into his Sceptile, and it is not Mega Evolved, so this Hidden Power Fire is going to be super effective, and he's going to do about 50% to this thing, which is very nice. That is damage I am happy to have on this. And now I am going to send out my Spadef Cresselia, which will be able to take any hit that this thing wants to go for. As you're going to see here, he goes for the Mega Evolution, which is totally fine. Of course he has to, turn 1. He's going to go for the Grass Knot, which, as you're going to see in a moment, I can take very, very well, because Cresselia is disgusting. But here, I have no reason to overpredict. I am just going to fire off an Ice Beam as he sends out his Drapion, which is totally fine, because I will be able to gauge the damage on this thing. And judging by this damage, it looks to be kind of not Spadef, if that makes sense, just because Drapion Spadef isn't terrible, and Cresselia is relatively weak. But regardless, he is going to pull a very good double out into his Mega Sceptile as I pull back into my Mega Blastoise, or I pull out into my Mega Blastoise, expecting a knockoff, which is a very good play on his part. If he did go for Pursuit, I did have the Colbur Berry, I'd be able to take it very well. But here, he's going to use this opportunity of me switching out to set up a sub, which, again, is totally fine, because I can take anything that this thing wants to go for. Like, as you're going to see, he's going to go for the Dragon Pulse, and that just does nothing, because Cresselia is disgusting. But here I'm going to fire off an Ice Beam. It will easily be able to break the sub of the Mega Sceptile. As you can see, I'm going to get a crit. Doesn't matter in the slightest. But now, I want this thing healthy to be able to deal with some of his other threats. Like, I want this thing to be able to switch into the Mega Sceptile later on as well. So here I am going to go right for the Moonlight, which is very nice. And here, I have a relatively safe switch into this Scizor. I could stay in and go for the Hidden Power Fire. I can take a Banded U-turn, but I don't necessarily want to. Like I said, I want this thing healthy for the Sceptile. So I'm going to switch out into my Gligar, which can take this thing on very well, as he's actually going to set up an SD. I didn't think he would want to do that this early, because I do have the Magneton in the back, so this almost confirms to me that he has something to take on my Magneton, whether that be like an Aqua Berry or Shed Shell. He's got something to deal with my Magneton, because there's no way he would have SD'd risking me going into my Magneton. Granted, he also could have played off me not wanting to make the same mistake as last time if you watch my match, which would definitely be good on his part. But anyway, skipped a couple turns. Essentially, I just got up Stealth Rocks with my Gligar. He decided to switch out into his Frostlass to deal with that. And I switched out into my Mega Blastoise, which is very bulky. Max HP, this Blastoise is, so I will be able to take that Shadow Ball very well. And after Mega Evolving, I'll gain a little bit more bulk even, and I will be able to fire off a Scald and just knock out the Frostlass. Unfortunately, he is going to get a Spadef drop, which doesn't matter too much, but it'll matter a little bit in a second. I'll explain why. I'm going to just knock out the Frostlass, which is very nice. Offensive Ghost coverage versus my team is pretty good, but regardless, that thing is dead. And now he's going to go into his Thunderous Tea, and he has a free Dark Pulse here. Like I said, with the Split F drop, I will not be able to live this without it. I had a good chance to live it, but with it, I am just dead. And yeah, that's unfortunate. But I didn't necessarily need my Mega Blastoise at this point anyway. So now I'm going to send out my Scolipede, and I go right for the attack. Because I did not want him setting up on a possible Protect, and I did not want him possibly switching out like into his Scizor on a Protect, because that would just gain him a lot of momentum. And I knew if he was Scarfed, I could live a Dark Pulse no matter what. If he wasn't, then I would outspeed him and be able to hit him with that anyway. So I feel like that's just the better play on my part overall. So we're going to go for the Poison Jab. It knocks him out with the Poison that I was able to snag on the Thunderous Tea. Didn't matter too much because I would have been able to knock him out with another one and Rocks her up. It really only cost me like 10% in Life Orb, which is not the biggest thing in the world. So here he's going to send out his Scizor. And I am now English. I am now going to go back out into my Gligar, try and gauge what I can possibly do to this thing. It's also my safest play because even if he gets to +6 with Swords Dances, he cannot knock out my Magneton, and I can trap it and hit it with an HP Fire. But this Earthquake does absolutely nothing. So this is a very bulky Scizor. So he's a bulky SD regular Scizor, which is definitely going to be problematic. But as you can see here, I predict him to either go for another SD trying to get to +6 or to go for the Roost here because he's getting a little bit low. He reveals to be bulky, so I'm thinking he probably has Roost as well. I'm going to go out into my Cresselia, and this is where things kind of start to go bad for me because, like, this is something I have to do. I have Hidden Power Fire on this. I need to weaken this thing to the point where my Magneton can take it out. I don't want to hard switch into Magneton or else I just completely lose to this thing. So I'm going to take a Bullet Punch, and he reveals the Octoberry. And as you're going to see, this Hidden Power Fire does absolutely nothing. That Octoberry really helps him out. And because he is a very bulky Scizor, like more than likely it's got a lot of Split F investment as well, I am not going to be able to knock it out with the Hidden Power Fire from my Magneton. So my best play here is to go out into my Magneton, go for the Volt Switch, expecting him to want to attack me, sack something, then come back in with my Magneton and click Hidden Power Fire. So as you're going to see here, I'm going to Volt Switch out into my Diancie. It's the most useless thing at this point. I deal with the Drapion relatively well. It obviously dies to the Mega Sceptile, so I'm just going to stack my Diancie at this point to the Superpower. Even if he did decide to Roost there, I could at least hit him with an HP Fire on the next turn, or force him to attack me, but I didn't think he would want to Roost. But anyway, I'm going to go back out into my Magneton, and now I can pick off this Scizor, which is great. For the first time this season, I was able to kill a Scizor. It killed, like, half my things, but it's okay, because it's dead now. And now he is going to send out his Mega Sceptile. I know, from my team builder, you would know this as well, that his Mega Sceptile outspeeds the Scarf Magneton, but I think even if he doesn't have Focus Blast or Earthquake, I live, but he has, I believe that's Hidden Power Ground, because I believe I do not go down to Hidden Power Fire from full, but definitely good prep on his part, more accurate than Focus Blast, definitely helped him out. And here I can just go for a safe Protect. He cannot sub on my Protect because he does not have enough HP, which is really nice, so I do have a very safe Protect there. He can't safely switch anything in on this Mon anyway. The Sceptile's a very low amount of HP, and here I go for the EQ, just in case he decides to switch out into his Drapion. And this is gonna sound a little odd, but I'm gonna pause it real quick here. I went for the Earthquake there as well, trying to bait in the Drapion, which sounds weird, but because that Drapion didn't show an item earlier on, and I'm assuming it's not going to be choice, though I probably shouldn't have assumed, but I'm assuming at this point it's not choice. I'm actually a little bit afraid of the Shuckleberry, because he may have made that thing to be a switch into my Scolipede, because he did not have much on his team. So we're going to see how that plays out later. I want that thing to come in, because if he hard switches into his Drapion now, I know 100% he's Shucka, because I just revealed the Earthquake, and why would you send it in? And the answer is because I have a Shuckleberry, bitch. But anyway, he's going to send out his Heracross here, and I have a very safe switch into this, being my Gligar. Like I said, I can take hits from this regardless of whether or not he knocks off my Eviolite, so in comes the Gligar. He is going to go for the knockoff, which is going to do absolutely nothing. And as you're going to see here, he's actually going to reveal the Rock Tomb, which I thought was kind of interesting, but definitely makes sense. Can hit the Scolipede, can make sure... oh, sorry, burping in my mouth, that's annoying. But anyway, Rock Tomb makes sure that my Scolipede does not rack up speed boosts, which is definitely smart on his part, plus rock coverage. That's really the most powerful rock coverage he needed. He didn't necessarily need to rely on Stone Edge or Rock Slide, so that definitely makes sense. And I can see why he does that, or why he did that. But here, As you're gonna see, this is gonna be kind of a stall war, not necessarily a stall war, because he's just gonna spam close combat, as I am going to click Earthquake, and then Roost, and then click Earthquake a couple times, and then Roost until this thing is dead. So, here, just gonna go for the Earthquake. Like I said, does decent damage to this thing, because his defenses are lowered. And here, he's gonna go for one more close combat, as this is a turn that I do take to Roost, because I can still possibly lose this game if I lose my Gligar and that Drapion is Shuckleberry, because if that if that Drapion has Ice Fang and I'm at a low enough amount of HP, it will be able to knock me out. And then if he's Shuckleberry, I have to rely on Mega Horn hitting, and as we know from last week, that doesn't always happen. So I wanted to make sure this thing was at a good amount of HP so that I can take any hit from the Drapion. And as you're going to see here, I'm satisfied with the amount of HP I'm at. I'm going to click Earthquake here. And with the defense drops, that is easily going to knock out the Heracross. So it is now Drapion versus Gligar and Scolipede on my side. So he's going to send out his Drapion, going to take Rocks damage here. And he is going to reveal the Ice Fang. But because Gligar's very bulky on the physical side, even without the Violet, I will be able to go for the Earthquake. And like I thought earlier on, he is going to be Shuckleberry. It's very good to pop this thing because now I can just come in with my Scolipede and click Earthquake afterwards. Him going for knockoff here also confirms that he's not Scarfed, which is very nice because now I don't even have to protect and risk him having sub or whatever, so gonna go out into my Scolipede. I 100% outspeed this thing and I can just knock him out with the Earthquake, and that is going to be a good game to Skyrander. That was a very intense game, and thank you very much, Sky, for the match. That game started out very well for us. Like, I thought, you know, I could just play this game relatively safely. Like, I could just switch in my Cresselia on the Sceptile. Even when he pulled a good double, it didn't matter because Cresselia took any hit from the Sceptile anyway. So it really didn't matter in that regard. It just, everything went well. Up until that Scizor came in. The Scizor was built beautifully for my team. Because if it were just like a regular Banded Scizor, or a regular, like, not bulky, like max HP, max attack SD Scizor, my Magneton easily just dealt with it. But because of the bulk investment, because of the Akaberry, my Cresselia did nothing to it. I had to sack my Diancie in order to get damage off on the Scizor, so very good prep on his part. This was a very intense game up until the end. And that thought of Shuckleberry, I'm glad I kept that in the back of my mind because, let's just say, suppose he was able to knock out my Gligar, I 100% was clicking Mega Horn with my Scolipede. I'm not entirely sure if it would have killed, because I'm not entirely sure his spread, but I was 100% clicking Mega Horn on Scolipede, because I was convinced at that point he was Shuckleberry. I guess you could call it a hunch, or a prediction, or whatever, but just the way he preserved it, the way, like, it didn't have Black Sludge, I had a feeling it was going to be Shuckleberry. And if it was offensive with, like, a Life Orb, which it wasn't, because I think no, it didn't attack at that point. If it was, like, offensive with a Life Orb, or, like, Banded, or something like that, then it would have been more than likely Speedy, and Mega Horn would have killed it anyway, but regardless, I've been rambling on a little while about that, so thank you guys very much for watching. I hope you guys are looking forward to next week. We are going up against Daniki, so I hope you're looking forward to that, and I will see you next time.